howdy, gang. It is Friday, and I'm curious, will my order for an F-52 fighter actually be processed by the U.S. government, or are they going to nix the deal because I do not live in Norway? I don't know. I can't tell you. All I can say for certain is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Jeff McAleer once again, and I am your host here at the Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. And yes, I am the grand poobah of the gaming gang as well. So welcome aboard. Today is January 12th, 2018, and it's Friday, and I've got lots of gaming planned for my weekend. Ooh, can't wait. Do want to mention, I just opened up the show. It's just a crack. I'm just kidding around about the F-52 in Norway. I don't want folks who are on a certain side of the aisle politically here in the U.S. to take that as some, take it the wrong way. I'm not looking to upset anybody. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. You do have to laugh that the president did misspeak and talk about a fictional jet fighter from Call of Duty, as well as the press department of the White House not spell checking Norway. Anyway, it was just a crack, folks. I know how some people are out there. Anyway, I have probably a shorter show than usual on the agenda for today. I am going to be reviewing ShutterBug from the fine folks over at Calliope Games. It is designed by Mike Elliott, and it is a family fun game for Family Fun Friday. And if you're curious what I've got cooking for next week, on Monday, I am going to be reviewing Sakura Arms from my friends over at Alderac Entertainment Group. Very interesting game, very interesting two-player game. On Tuesday, I'm going big. I'm going with a how to play and review of Sword and Sorcery, which is from Ares Games and Goblin Project. On Wednesday, I am going to do a how to play. I've already reviewed it, but I will kind of rehash my review that I posted a while back. For Wargame Wednesday, it will be how to play Night of Man from Flying Pig Games and designed by my pal Mark H. Walker. Thursday, I don't know. Thursdays I like to do RPG stuff. And then next Friday, it's family fun on Fridays. Probably be doing a review of Scheherazade or Capital City. Up in the air on both of those right now. It's probably going to be Capital City because it's for more players. Scheherazade's just kind of a two-player game. Who knows? I might... I don't know. I'll try to squeak those reviews in. As far as the reviews go, I try to only do one review per day because I also post these videos once YouTube's done processing them. And they go up on the Gaming Gang, and this way I can put my score in, and it does show that it's a review. Kind of tough to do that if I review two items on one show. Anyway, kind of a quiet news day today, but that's going to just give us more time to kick back, relax, and talk about ShutterBug. I'm going to show you how to play it and give you my thoughts overall on the game. But strangely enough, because it's Friday, I try to do kind of family games for Friday. I have no control over the news that pops, though. So strangely enough, today is more of a miniatures kind of focused news. There wasn't tons of news that was out there, but two of the items I stumbled across, well, one of them I got sent, are miniatures games, which doesn't necessarily fit into Family Fun Friday, but like I said, I have no control over the news. Better take a sip before I dive into the news. If you've watched the show, in the past, you know that it gets awfully dry down here in the Duct Tape Studios. Anyway, first off, Warlord Games has released a skirmish-level Ancients Miniatures game. That's right, that's kind of a mouthful. And it's by way of a company called War Banner, who I am not familiar with. But it's called Gangs of Rome. And Warlord, of course, has a range of miniatures for the system, and the rules are available for free. That's right, you can get the PDF of the rules absolutely free. I'm always looking for the cool freebie stuff for you, gang. And I have the dope from Warlord Games. Battle on the streets of Rome in this new game from War Banner. Inspired by the history of the great city, Gangs of Rome takes place in the shadows of the Empire, where the heads of ambitious houses have gathered fighters forged hard by the streets to do their bidding and to enact their schemes. The street has forged me hard? Okie doke. As a Dominus, the head of a House of Rome, you will seek out the most brutal of Rome's criminal denizens, plying them with the promise of wealth and glory, should they aid you in your plan to rise to the Senate of Rome and cast down all enemies before you. Closing about you like a ring of steel, your gang will arm themselves and take to the streets and alleyways of the city, advancing your interests and crushing your foes. Told you this is, not really a family kind of game, but hey, it's the news. Your strategies mixed with their savagery, mind and sword as one, as you carve your name across the very pages of history. This is your story, a tale wrought by your hand. You will rise on the backs of your fighters, gaining power and influence enough to change not only your future, but that of Rome itself. This is Gangs of Rome, an innovative 28mm skirmish game for the sharp of mind and bold of action. As I mentioned previously, the PDF rules for Gangs of Rome is absolutely free through the Warlord Games website. One thing I mentioned, and the other miniatures news that I've got is actually skirmish game related too. I do really like the skirmish kind of level miniatures games quite a bit for a few different reasons. For people just getting into the hobby, the buy-in cost is fairly low because a lot of these skirmish games, whatever faction you take on, normally you require maybe 10, 15 figures on a side. Some other miniatures games require way, way more figures to be able to play effectively. Plus, I usually dig the RPG elements that some of these skirmish games will bring to the fore as well, as your characters get better, as your fighters get better, or whatever sort of minis you might have. So yes, pretty nice of Warlord Games to release that PDF absolutely free. It is not, as far as I understand, a quick start. It is the full rules. Sweet. All right, so let's talk about something that is going to be family friendly. And I want to say Renegade Game Studios is at it again. They've got another game coming out, and get ready to set sail. Get ready to set sail and steal away with some pirate booty. The only problem is other pirates know all about the booty too, and they're trying to find it in a really odd named game from Renegade. It's called Sabordage. Anyway, I have the dope from Renegade. The famous pirate Blackbeard has summoned you to his deathbed and entrusts you with his dearest secret, the location of his hidden treasure. But the old rascal has played one last trick on you by also revealing the location to every renowned pirate on the seven seas. Yes, the race is on, but in order to reach the treasure, you need a ship, sturdy and fast. Except everyone else has the same idea, and the battle already rages in the harbor before the ships have even been completed. Sabordage is going to feature a complete pirate ship for you to build. Each of the players will be able to complete a pirate ship in order to find the hidden treasure. You're going to outsmart the other pirates while building and fighting. You'll draft upgrades to your ship and strategically place them. It is ideal for 2 to 5 savvy pirates ages 9 and up, and the battle will rage for about 30 minutes. Sabotage is arriving later this month, and it will carry an MSRP of $35. I have to admit, I apologize, there aren't a whole lot of images available for Sabotage. I found basically the box cover and then artwork from one of the pirates. So I know for a fact there are 5 different pirate cards. I think they're all going to be identical. It's just, okay, the artwork will be different, but their abilities should all be the same as far as I understand. But because this was released, I want to say was it Oni Games? Or they're the ones who designed the game. I found some images, but they're not from the Renegade edition. Plus, I feel a little weird using images that are not coming directly from the company or from the game designer. Usually the game designer don't mind if you're using images. I'm not one of these people who, I saw this image on Board Game Geek, I'll just take this and put it in the news piece. No, not how we operate at the Gaming Gang. All right, and my third news piece is, yes, I had mentioned it already, it's another miniature skirmish game, but this time it's an expansion for Dracula's America, Shadows of the West. Yes, the popular Weird West miniatures game, Dracula's America, is about to expand later this month with a 96-page supplement entitled Dracula's America Hunting Grounds. And I have the dope from Osprey Games. Hunting Grounds is the first expansion for Dracula's America, Shadows of the West, and introduces a host of extras for your existing posses. Alongside these additional items and arcane powers is a new narrative campaign, special rules allowing players to take the battle into the hunting grounds, and 2 new factions. But what do these new posses bring to the tabletop? The Forsaken are the remnants of Custer's 7th Cavalry, now cursed to become uncontrollable werebeasts after the Battle of Little Bighorn. 2 non-hired gun models in your posse will become accursed, or accursed, becoming a monstrous beast that will fight for you on the battlefield, but could well turn against you if things start to go wrong. The Shadow Dragon Tong is a secretive organization whose will is enforced by lethal martial artists with a sinister connection to the spirit realms. Players choosing this faction will see 2 of their models become Gayalo? I know I'm getting that wrong. Ghost men. Supernatural, ethereal warriors that stick to the ancient martial traditions of their ancestors. Members can also benefit from Animus ink tattoos, granting the bearers special supernatural abilities to aid them on the battlefield. Will either of these factions be making their way to your tabletop? I don't know. The softcover of Dracula's America Hunting Grounds will release on January 25th and does carry an MSRP of $25. At this point in time, I do not see a PDF edition of Dracula's America Hunting Grounds available yet from Osprey, so it's possible you may just have to order the book. I'm also going to point out that the miniatures that are used in these photos that you're seeing right now do come from North Star Military Figures, and they do carry an entire line which is devoted to Dracula's America. And they do look mighty cool. Once again, this is actually a skirmish game that I want to take a peek at. I want to check out the rules for, because the premise of the game is pretty interesting. It's effectively Dracula has become president of the United States, and things are weird and dark, and most people are trying to go out west to avoid the vampire's influence. And of course, no doubt, his vampire horde. I have not gotten a chance to take a peek at Dracula's America Shadows of the West, but I'm hoping to. I'm hoping to at some point. All right, so that is the news. Like I said, pretty quick news day. And thank goodness I can get rid of the teleprompter now. Don't have to, stumble over words and things like that and mispronounce stuff. And all right. So as I mentioned, today's probably going to be a bit quicker as far as shows. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird. Sometimes the shows clock in about an hour. I have done almost 2 hours. Then every once in a while, it's a show that's about an hour long. Something that we're probably going to float around in about the hour or so. But I do want to share the, try to grab the box top over here, put it off. I thought I had it on one place and someplace else. So we're going to take a look at ShutterBug from Calliope Games and designed by Mike Elliott. And let's switch over to the other camera here. And I do have this set up pretty much for kind of a 3-player game, because the game is for 2 to 6 players. It is going to play better with more players. There is a bit of a variant for 2 players, and I will discuss that a little bit. And this is a family game, ages 8 and up. So the premise is it's 1932, and you are a photographer. You are a freelance photographer. Just kind of show off this card here. And one of the first things I noticed was I really dug the artwork. I like the look of the game. Very clean. It has a bit of a newsy kind of look to it. Like, for an example, we've got the National Acquirer on the back there. So anyway, so the premise is it's 1932. You're one of these photographers. You're a freelancer, and you're going to traverse the U.S. in search of photographs of these mythical and mysterious creatures that people are reporting are being seen. And of course, the newspapers that are contracting you to go get these photographs are kind of scandal rags. They're tabloids. Because, come on, New York Times isn't going to be running pictures of some crazy monsters, some guy in a rubber suit. So I kept kidding around that the game is actually Kolchak, the early years, when a young, impressionable, wet behind the ears Carl Kolchak sets out to make his name in the newspaper business for the Chicago Sun-Times. And yes, I know the Kolchak reference is going to just right over a lot of people's heads. Thankfully, everyone around the table, except for my niece, understood the gag. So what we're looking at here is this is the game board here, and we do have a representation of the United States on a hexagonal board, and each of these areas, these hexagonal areas, we've got cities, we've got different terrain, so on and so forth. So quickly, we'll take a kind of tour around the board a little bit. And let me scoot this over just a hair. There we go. As usual, space is at a premium, but that's okay. So each of the players will, before I get into the board, each of the players will get one of these cards, and there are meeples. They are little reporter meeples, and they represent the color of the kind of player aid card here matches your meeple color. So you'll notice that there are 4 boxes that run along the top of the board. And the whole point of the game is to score points by obtaining photographs of these creatures throughout the country. And you can score side jobs, which are bonus points, and it shows right here on the board. And you may want to go full screen to get a better look, but it'll tell you how many points these are worth. These can be gained at any point during the game. So if you're able to get photographs of all 4 creatures, you'll score 2 victory points. If you're able to get 4 photos of the same terrain, because there are 6 terrain types in the game, you get 3 victory points. If you're able to get photographs of the same creature in 3 different quality levels, and I'll show you that in just a moment, you can score 4 victory points. And if you get photos in all 6 terrains, then you get a nice chunk of victory points with 5. Then looking around, as I pointed out before, the US is broken into this hexagonal game area. And each of the areas will have a silhouette of the creature. It's going to have visual representation of that terrain type, and there's also going to be a little icon. It's pretty small. It's a little icon indicating what that terrain is. And this is where the tiles are going to be seated on the board as you play, because as you're collecting photographs, you'll have more photographs come out. Now, just randomly, you're going to draw these from the cool draw bag that says ShutterBug right on it. And I have already put a bunch of tiles in here. I have seeded the board. Got a bunch of tiles. Aha. And these tiles will show silhouettes of one of each of the 4 creatures. Now, what I've done here is I've actually taken these tiles off to the side just to kind of show you a little bit. And the camera is up there a little bit there, so I'm kind of have to reach up. So this is a kind of a sort of a like a Pegasus / unicorn, and you see that it's got a number 3. So what that's going to mean is it's going to take you 3 tips to be able to score this photograph. And let me get a little closer in there. You can see that it does have an icon of the terrain. So if this is drawn from the draw bag, you're going to place this, it would go here, because it's showing the same silhouette of the creature and the terrain. Now, I already have the 7 tiles, the 7 photographs out on the board, so we wouldn't do that now. But if this were drawn when you're reseeding the board, that is how you're going to place these, and it's going to be silhouette side up. So we have 3, 2, and as you can see, that's kind of a seafront, oceanfront terrain. And then we have 1, and we see there it's desert terrain. If we flip these over, you'll see the quality of the photographs change. So anything that's really muted and dark is a poor quality photo. A 2 is something where, okay, you didn't snap a great picture, but it's a whole lot better than something that's been underdeveloped. And then a 3 is, wow, look at that. It is a fantastic shot. You're Annie Leibovitz of tabloid photographers. Pretty simple how these tiles will work. Now, to begin the game, you're going to seed the board. I've got this set up. I've got 3 players, and I'll actually lay down their meeples just to make it a little easier to follow as opposed to having them standing up. So each of the players is going to pick a city that they're going to start off in. You've got the board seeded. You'll have 7 tiles that you're going to seed. Each of the players, and this is a big, big stack. It's a pretty good-sized deck. Each player will receive a secret assignment card. Once they've received that secret assignment card, then these cards are actually put to the side. They're not going to be used again in the game. And show off one of these. Don't have to go that high up there, Jeff. This is an example of one of these secret assignment cards. So you're going to have 2 tabloids, and you're going to have different monster, I shouldn't say monster, creatures. It's a family game. They're not monsters. Even though it looks almost like a werebeast. It's kind of like wolf, antelope thing, dog, big, scary looking thing. I guess maybe we could call that a monster, but it's going to show the silhouettes. It's going to show the two tabloids. There's a few different tabloid names. They're kind of funny. I always joke around when we talk about the old days when I was a teenager and that, how you would see the Weekly World News, which was just, it made National Enquirer look like, let's say, the Washington Post, right? And they would have, in fact, I was kidding around. I said, hey, wait a second, there's no vampire baby in this game? You're not trying to give pictures of the vampire baby? Because you would see this vampire baby, and it was obviously a doctored photo, and it would be on the cover of this Weekly World News, like every 3-4 weeks. Of course, it was always a little bit different, but it was just funny. It was just this baby with bald baby with big ears, big fangs, and it's huge eyes, and it's like, ah! It's like, okay. It's true. They wouldn't publish it if it wasn't true. Anyway, so you're going to see, this is going to kind of give you an idea of what kind of strategy you want to use, what do you want to employ in order to score these points. Because you're not just going to travel all over the U.S. all willy-nilly collecting photographs. These are the assignments that are available to you, and you're going to have to, as you play, you're going to have to choose which one of these two are you going to fulfill. So for an example, if we look here, we've got the kind of unicorn Pegasus. Well, Look Here wants 4 quality worth of that unicorn Pegasus. Then we have, it's almost kind of a lionish, and when I reveal the tiles, the photos, I'll show you. So they're asking for 3. They're looking for a quality of 3 total. And then, of course, we've got I kept calling it the werebeast. And once again, 3. Now, you need to get that much to be able to score these points. So if we look at the other side, we've got the World Informer. We're looking at 5, 4, and 1. And the 4 is sort of almost like a jackalope looking. It's actually really cute. They don't really give the little well, not little, because the one thing's huge. They don't give the creatures names, so you can name them appropriately however you and the rest of your gaming gang want to name them. So every player is going to get a card like this. So having this set up, and I'll kind of put this off a little bit like that. Just so let's kind of put it like this. Kind of put these so we could actually kind of see them. So let's say that's the red player. Let's say this here is the blue player, and then down here we're going to have yellow player. And where I just placed the yellow player, this is a turn order. So not only does each of the players have this player aid card, but everything is actually right there on the board as well. It's easy peasy. Super, super easy to stay, informed of what you can do and what you can't do. And I will get these secret cards, move them off to the side. And just so you know, these are the rules. Get ready. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the rules to the game. It would take, it took me about 10 minutes to explain this. And I was also explaining it to not little kids, not 8-year-olds, but my niece is 12. So, and she's not a huge gamer, although I have mentioned it before. Madison really loves Love Letter, and I think it's the whole, knocked you out. Take that. Okay, so each of the players will also receive tip cards because you have to be able to spend tip cards to get these photographs. So you're going to have to travel to these locations and have tip cards to be able to acquire these photos. So each player will begin the game with 3 tip cards. And let's just say, okay, here's a red player. Here's blue player. Here is yellow player. So once you have made sure that the board has been populated to 7, for a second I'm looking and I'm like, what? Wait a second, where's the 7th one? It's over here. You'll have your tip cards and you're going to look at your tip cards. And each of the tip cards is going to show the creature as well as the terrain type. And the way this has actually been put together too is it's not necessarily, I would say anyone who happens to be colorblind will not have any sort of issue playing this game. Only thing that gets a little tricky, especially for gamers my age, is sitting at a bigger table. It was sometimes a little tough to make out the little icon from something that was further away. Not a huge deal because you can usually kind of make it out from the image background. But anyway, so for an example here, here's a tip card for the, I kept calling it Werebeast, whatever you want to call it. He's friendly though, he just looks scary. Got another, this is that kind of jackalope-ish looking creature. And then this is kind of the weird ram looking creature here. So what this tip card is showing you is this tip card is used as this creature. Of course, obviously enough, it's a big image of that creature. But if you look at the circles, both on top and on the bottom, it's going to show kind of as part of the silhouette, well, mainly the silhouette of the creature, as well as a terrain type. So you can spend this card as a terrain type as well. So you would start off and you've got your 3 tip cards. On each turn, you're going to be able to move up to 3 spaces. And you cannot backtrack from the direction you came. So that is something that the players kind of have to keep an eye on, especially each other. And I'm not saying that somebody's trying to cheat, but sometimes you might forget how you got to a certain hex, how you got to a certain location. So what you would say, let's say the red player is the first player, and the first player gets this big chunky marker in front of them, and of course each turn it's just going to rotate around the table. So let's say, okay, so I'm the red player here. So this is my hand of tip cards. So I'm looking at right here is a 1. So we know this isn't going to be a good photograph. We know this is going to be a kind of photograph. So I also have my assignment here that does show this creature for look here. So I could score the points if I eventually get the 3 quality images, the total of 3 of this creature. I will get to score those points. It's important to keep in mind if you're looking at the points for these assignments, you have to choose at the end of the game when you're doing your scoring which one of the 2 that are going to give you points. You don't get points for both. Basically, you're submitting your photographs to the editor of one of these magazines. All right, so in a turn, you could move up to 3 spaces. Now, when you move, there's different things that you can do. If you go to another city, you get to draw a tip card. If you end your turn in a city, you get to draw 2 tip cards. So what I could consider, let's say as the red player, I know I've got the 3 moves. I might say, okay, well, I'm going to go down to New Orleans, and that is going to allow me to draw a tip card. Now, these are always kept hidden. You're not going to show other players the tip cards that you've got. So I've got these 4 tip cards. Now, I drew another one of these kind of ram things. And I'm like, okay, well, he's on my assignment. I might as well go score that photograph because, especially when you're playing with quite a few more players, everybody's going all over the country and you don't want to sit tight and wait. Well, I'll go get that photo next turn. Well, guess what? That photo probably is not going to be there next turn. So I used my one move. I went to New Orleans. Then I'm going to move here into the mountains. So that's 2. And then I've got my 3. This is my 3rd move. So now here I am, freezing my butt off in the mountains, trying to get a photograph of this creature. Well, we already know I have the 1 card. Well, I've got 2 that have it. So I might as well use one of these cards. So all you'll do is you're going to discard, and I would be able to claim this image. We take a look and it's like, Jeff, you are a terrible photographer. No wonder I'm a freelancer. No wonder they haven't hired me on at one of the scandal rags. And then you would actually take this and place it in front of you. And so everyone knows the photos that the other players have. And then that would be the end of my turn. And so let's say, okay, next we've got, let's say the blue player's next. Let's see what the blue player has. So first off, they have the News of the Earth and the World Informer. So once again, these are the 2 assignments that they can really choose from. And early in the game, you don't really have to pay a whole lot of attention to these because you may have an opportunity to, maybe you set off and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try to get News of the World creatures. And then as you're playing, you're going to say, well, you know what? I'm getting more stuff for the World Informer. Maybe I should go in that direction. So, all right, so that is their assignment for the blue player. And let's see what they've got. All right, so amazingly enough, they have 2 of the, I keep saying werebeast, but I don't mean to call it that. It just kind of looks like that. Yes, it's here to scare little kids. Make sure you get the 4-year-olds playing this game and keep throwing this picture in front of them, watching them freak out. Okay, so we see that we've got 2 here. So we notice, well, there's a 2 here next to us, and there's also a 2 here. Same exact creature, just different terrain. And they're actually valued the same. When you have something that has a value higher than 1, it means you're going to have to discard, you're going to have to spend 2 cards in order to get it. And you have a couple of options. You can use 2 cards that have the actual creature on them, or you can spend 1 card that has the creature and 1 card that has the corresponding terrain. You must always have a card that shows that creature to be able to get it. So as an example, if you set off someplace and it's a 1, got another one of these guys down here. Boy, these creatures are really populating the U.S. Yeah, yep, that's where he went. So if you were, say, the yellow player in their turn coming up, if they decided, hey, I'm going to set off and go get this, they have to make sure that they've got 1 of these creature cards. The terrain card doesn't count. It just makes it easier for a player. You don't have to collect 2 or 3 of that creature. You just have to make sure you got 1 of the creature and at least 1 or 2, depending on the value of that photograph, of that terrain to be able to get it. So we've got the blue player here. And the blue player says, okay, let's see. I've got these 2 cards. So I am going to move, going to head northeast, or not northeast, southeast, duh. I'm going to head southeast to LA. I'm going to discard these cards. I'm going to get rid of these tip cards. I'm going to collect this 2 value photograph. And now we see, okay, Okay, halfway decent picture, but still, it's not. We're not getting a whole look at that creature. Get that? That would go in front of the blue player. Now the blue player still has a couple of moves that they can make, but they are down to one card, which is this card right here. So what they may consider doing is, well, I'm going to go head to the city, because when you're in the city, you're talking to people, you're getting information, people are sharing the dope with you about what's going on. So if you end your turn in a city, so 2 moves left, that's 1, that's 2, you're going to get to draw 2 tip cards. Aha! Got the 2 tip cards. Add it. Now, one thing I missed, sorry, is when it moves to the next player, you need to reseed the board. So, remember I got this photograph here for the red player. So, you always have 7. So, I'd reach in, pull this out, you know, take a look at that. My gosh, there's loads of these all over the place. And we can see, taking a look at the icon here, where exactly this is going to go. So this is going to go into kind of the grasslands. So it's going to go there. Now, the blue player, they're finishing their turn. They took the 2. Well, they scored a photograph. We would reseed again. So they're going to reach into the bag. They're going to pull one out. And here we get this one right there. And you're like, oh, okay. Easy enough. Pretty simple. Then you would move, let's say we go to the yellow player, and what they can do here is, let's look at, this is the blue player, this is the yellow player. So that's what they're looking at, and this is what their assignment card looks like here. Taking a look at these. So, taking a look, okay, well, what do we got? What do we got around here? Here in Miami. Well, boy, we sure are getting a lot of photos of this character, huh? So, 1 card. It's a 1 quality there. Move out of Miami. Go to there. Spend this card. Discard that. They're going to take this tile here. Boom. Goes in front of them. Now, another aspect of what you can do on a turn is you can actually move in. So here we go. Yellow player moves into New Orleans. They're going to get to draw a tip, because they went into a city. But when you're in the same location as another player, you can, they call it trading tips, but it's kind of more along the lines of stealing tips. You can choose to take one of your tip cards and put it in front of the other player. Say, okay, I'm trading tips. And then they have to hold up their tip cards to you, and you get to take one of their tips. That can cause a little bit of frustration, especially with younger players, because as I mentioned before, the game is for ages 8 and up. So you know your children way better than I possibly could ever try to divine. So some kids, yeah, they're going to be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, that's fine. Others, or more sensitive gamers too, because there are, adult gamers who don't like any sort of take that or confrontation, anything like that. So just pointing that out. So what you could do is you could actually kind of steal a tip from another player, but you're replacing it with a tip that you're giving to them. And it could help. You never know. You may give them a tip that helps them, and the tip you draw in return does absolutely nothing for you. But that is something else that you can do on your turn. Well, the yellow player got a tip. Let's say that they did trade a tip with the blue player. They would still have 1 move left. Well, we already know if you end your turn in a city, you get 2 more tip cards. There we go. Looking good. Looking good, yellow player. And now they would have 5 tip cards, which gives them a pretty good selection of where they can go and give them some options. Plus, seem to have a whole wave of creatures that are popped up just east of Chicago. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in my hometown. Crazy. And then, of course, that would be the end of that turn. Reach down, because remember, yellow player got one of those photos, and you're going to populate the board with a new tile. So you're always going to make sure you've got the 7 tiles, the 7 photographs out there for the players to chase after. When you have more players, you'll see that, I'm not going to say it gets hectic. Actually, I enjoy the game with more players. 2-player games, kind of interesting because you're each utilizing, you do red and blue. So you'll actually get 2 reporters. So you've kind of got a team of reporters that are out there scouring the country. But between these 2 reporters on your team, you still only get 3 moves. So you might send 1 2 spaces and another 1 space. So you still only get the 3 moves to break between the 2 reporters. But I do like the game much more with like 6 players, because there's a lot going on, you know. And it's kind of fun because I enjoy sitting there and saying, you know, okay, so I've got these tip cards, and I'm like, okay, so all right, so yeah, when it comes around to my turn, there's only a couple people ahead of me. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be able to get that photograph. Okay, yeah, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. I'm like, that doesn't frustrate me. I get a kick out of that kind of stuff, because then now you're like, all right, there went that idea. What am I able to do now? Let's see, what do I got in these cards? Okay, so what are my assignments? What am I trying to do here? Okay, so you will actually go through 8 rounds. So pretty much we played through an entire round. So things are pretty even. Everybody's got a photograph. Of course, one's of a better quality than the other 2. Yellow player's sitting there with 5 tips, so that's pretty sweet. Now, the maximum number of tip cards you can have in your hand at the end of your turn is 7. That's the most you can have, which is okay, because, you know, then you're starting to discard down. If you end up with a bunch of cards, you probably wouldn't want more than those 7, because that just means you've got just a metric ton of the same thing. So once you have gone through the 8 rounds, then it's time for the final scoring. And as you're going along, as I pointed out earlier, you have these side jobs that is available to all the players. So, for an example, if, let's say, the red player was able to get photos of all 4 creatures and the same creature in all 3 photo qualities, at the end of the game, the blue player had 4 photos of the same terrain, and they also have all 4 creatures. And then the yellow player's got all 6 terrain, and like that. Okay. So you're going to go and you're just going to score according to what you've got. This is how we were doing it. We were doing it, okay, let's do our side jobs first. So we did all the side jobs. We're able to score our victory points that way. Then we would look to see for each of the players, okay, well, what do you got? If you've got a total of 5 quality of this creature here, there you go, that's 5 victory points. Hope you got 4 of those, that'd be 4 victory points, and just one of these would be an additional victory point. Super easy how to total these up. Then, as kind of a bonus, if you finish your turn, the 8th turn, if you finish your turn in a city, you're going to get an extra 2 victory points. Because the way it looks at it, the game kind of looks at it is that you've been scouring the country, and now you're going to a city so you can submit these photos to the editor of whichever tabloid that you've decided to go with. As opposed to, well, you're still out on assignment, you haven't gotten back yet. So you'll score an extra 2. Whoever's got the most points is the winner. In the case of a tie, then what you're looking at is whoever has the highest quality of cards, I should say photos of these tiles, is the winner. If it's still tied, then it's a shared victory. And I will point out that it is not out of the realm of possibility to have a shared victory in a game, even with 3 or 4 players. With 6 players, running a much higher chance of having a shared victory, which is fine. Yeah, that doesn't bother me. You both share the big award at the end of the game. So that is really everything that is to ShutterBug. As I mentioned before, very simple to learn to play. Only little tricky thing is just kind of keeping an eye out that you don't move through the same space you already went through. That's just, it's as simple as that sounds. You do find yourself going, oh, okay, well, I'll backtrack through. And as soon as you think, oh, well, I'm backtracking, no. Can't do it. No backtracking. You got to go. Can't go New Orleans, back to Chicago, up here. You'd have to go New Orleans, mountains. So, what do I think of ShutterBug overall? I enjoyed it. I have to, mention that it's not as if I played tons and tons of games that are aimed at ages 8 and up. So take this for what it's worth, I do want to get more family fare, I guess, out there. And I enjoyed it. Everybody liked it. So don't, I don't want anything to come across as being overly critical, because it's not. I'm just going to toss out a couple of things that kind of struck me, as well as some of the other players in the gang. And let me grab a quick sip here. So myself, personally, I would have liked to have seen more creatures. There's only 4 creatures. It's sort of like, okay. In fact, even my niece, Madison, was like, that's it? Aren't there any more monsters? It's like, no, there's 4. No, okay. So I would have liked to have seen that. I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker or anything like that. I just think it would have been more fun. Would have just a little more variety. Because it's sort of like, oh yeah, okay, so I'm going to get another picture of this jackalope thing again. But, yeah, not a huge thing. One thing I thought was kind of odd is you get all of these cards, these secret assignment cards. I mean, there's a lot of them. That is one thick deck of assignment cards. Yet, the game plays 6 players. Of course, everybody's going to have an assignment card. But once you have that assignment card, that's it. You don't get to trade in assignment cards. That is your assignment card for the game. So I think that Calliope went a little overboard on these secret cards, secret assignment cards. I just sort of like, I don't, I would think 30 cards would have been fine. Honestly, I think there's like 60, 62, something along those lines. So I thought that was kind of weird. It's just a strange observation that I've got. But one thing that was mentioned by one of the players, and I saw where they were kind of coming from, but then I explained what it, kind of how it works. So when you're reaching into the draw bag, right? You're reaching in and you're repopulating the board with these photograph tokens. They were basically saying that, hey, you know what? It's not really fair. You get the person drawing the token out. They get to see what quality of photograph it is before they put it down. And then I pointed out, well, but you already know what the quality of the photograph is going to be by how much it's going to cost you as far as your tip cards. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, take a look. All the 3s are clear images. All the 2s are kind of, off-center shots. They're different, different kind of cropping on them. And I said, and all the ones are all, real dark. So there's really no advantage, because all you're basically doing is you're looking at the silhouette side of the token that you pulled out, the tile you pulled out, and looking at, okay, this is the silhouette of the creature. And, whoops, as I was trying to go back up to here, and I start doing the outro. Sorry, guys. Sorry, gang. So yeah, all you're really doing is you're pulling this out, and you're looking at, okay, so that's the terrain, that's the silhouette, so it's gonna go right there. Just because you got to see this side of the card or the tile doesn't mean anything. Everybody sees that side. They're gonna see this side and know that it's a 1 value. And that player kind of looked at it, they thought, and I sort of agreed with them to a certain extent when they were talking about how it would be a cooler game if you didn't know what quality you were going to get of the photograph. And I said, yes, but then it starts making it difficult. So what are you going to do? Are you going to have all these tiles it'll just say a terrain type, and you would just have them just sitting face out and have them kind of mixed up, and you have to, select these tiles not from a draw bag, but sitting in a portion of your table that you've kind of, had to randomize them and stuff like that, which you'll see in various different games. I said, well, then now you're starting to make it kind of tougher. Plus, because the game is for ages 8 and up, I could see some frustration from younger gamers if they go and they say, oh, I get to spend 3 to get this photo, and then they reveal what the photo is, and it's a, terrible quality photo that's only worth one quality point. So I could see where that would kind of be a little frustrating for younger gamers. So I understand the direction they went. I'm just tossing that out there because that was something that had popped into 2 players' minds about. They were kind of surprised that it wasn't more randomness, more chaos to the game. But I enjoyed it. Everybody liked it. It's not reinventing the genre or anything like that. It's fun. It's a fun game, and I think it will fit in very, very well with people who enjoy lighter gaming fare, who like to sit down and have everybody in the family playing a game, going from grandma down to, your little cousins or, nieces, nephews, stuff like that. I did really enjoy it. Like I said, it's not reinventing the wheel. So I am actually going to, first of all, I'm going to give it a score, but I'm also going to kind of mention the scoring, because I think sometimes people who visit thegaminggang.com, especially some publishers, they kind of get upset when they see a score that maybe is lower than they were expecting. And what I always explain is you got to kind of look at it almost on a bell curve, right? So we go from 1 to 10. 1 is atrocious, it's terrible. In all honesty, you're probably never going to see another 1 review at the Gaming Gang or here on the Daily Dope. Just simply because if a game is that bad, I just want to get away from it and never really think about it again. And there are some games out there that are that terrible. This is not one of them, don't worry. But when I toss out a score of like a 7, 6.5, sometimes publishers get, a little upset. They're like, well, wait, no. Got to realize a lot of the good games, I'm saying good games, not phenomenal games, but good games should fall in around a 6.5 or a 7. Maybe even a 6, depending on who it's designed for. And the way I look at ShutterBug is, does it do what it's supposed to be doing? Does it accomplish what it sets out to accomplish? And I think it does. I really do. I think it does. And I enjoyed it. We had fun. And I could see pulling this out to play with some of the younger gamers, or, like with my mom or something if she came to town. So I am going to give ShutterBug a solid 7.5 out of 10. I think it's well worth picking up. It's certainly not geared towards more heavy strategy gamers by any stretch, but it's also not overly simplistic, which I enjoy. There is a little bit of strategy and a little bit of planning as you go around the country trying to score these photographs in order to score your victory points. It is pretty easy to see a tied game at the end. That's okay. It's not that big a deal. So yes, I definitely have to say that I enjoyed ShutterBug, and Mike Elliott can be congratulated on a fun design, and it is certainly worth picking up, and it carries an MSRP of $30, so that is a very fair price for what you get. All right, so there you have it. That is ShutterBug. And let's see, anything else I've got cooking? I don't think so. So, once again, I am Jeff McAleer. If you're not watching The Daily Dope, by all means, swing over to thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, you know the drill by now. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back on Monday with my review of Sakura Arms. And until then, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. Things are warming up a little bit, but still pretty icy traveling in a lot of places around the country or even around the world. So I will be back Monday, and until then, like I said, have a great weekend, and thank you so much for watching.